Good Tuesday morning, everybody. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Just a quick weather update on what's going to happen here in the next couple of days. And looking ahead to next week, there's already a lot of buzz about this post-Christmas storm. Though I'm going to tell you, there's probably more conjecture and kind of fantasy forecasting than there is anything in reality that we can see, at least in the model guidance. In the near term, though, we've had a system move through overnight. We're beginning to clear out. Temperatures are certainly going to be mild today. The bigger story for the next couple of days, if you are traveling, is going to be up here in parts of the Midwest and the Northern Plains. We've got a pretty big system that's going to develop here. And even today, we've got this little vortex that's moving through parts of Iowa, South Dakota, southern Minnesota that's actually producing some snow already. In fact, when I look at some of the velocity or the vertical velocities as well as the vorticity, there's quite a bit of lift going on across the Northern Plains. That's the vorticity. Here's the lift going on. Right in there, we've got a little lobe of energy that's helping to produce some snow. And when you look at the water vapor loop, it's even more impressive. You can actually see that little vort sitting over northern Iowa this morning. But the main energy is just now coming out of the Rockies, and this is going to get things going here in the next 24 to 36 hours. So let's start looking at some guidance. This is the ever reliable European model. As we go out through the next couple of days, we'll go out 24 hours, we'll go out 48 hours. And again, this is Wednesday night. You can see our piece of energy coming out of the Rockies and really developing into that, uh, mid-latitude wave cyclone that you tend to see coming out of the Rockies this time of year. This thing cranks up. It's a pretty tight little low pressure system, and you start to see some pretty good winds on the backside of this as well. This is likely going to produce some near blizzard conditions in areas of Kansas, eastern Nebraska. Iowa seems to get the brunt of this as well as parts of Wisconsin. So if you're traveling on Thursday into Friday, especially into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, because you can see the system eventually by Thursday night into Friday morning moves into the Great Lakes. And so anyone traveling north on I-77, obviously you're going to go right through snow because here's the rain snow line, this dashed blue line, the 540 thickness. This is all snow in the North Carolina mountains, the Virginias, West Virginia, Maryland. This is all snow back in here across the Great Lakes. And there's a lot of wind with this. So you can see as this system cranks up, it gets really cold here in the Charlotte area. This is the part of the forecast for the Charlotte area that people are probably not quite prepared for. No snow, but that's cold air sitting over the southeast. And as we go out even further, it stays cold going into the weekend. Pretty seasonable. Upper 40s, low 50s for highs. Morning lows in the 20s and 30s. And then through the weekend, things are relatively quiet and dry. It is chilly, but notice things starting to get interesting on Christmas Eve. We see some moisture in the southern branch of the jet stream down here starting to get going, and then we see a little buckle in the northern branch. And this is kind of interesting because there may be some phasing of the two jets. And notice how on Christmas night, Christmas Eve, I should say, into Christmas morning, we start to see this storm develop. And this is the big storm that we're starting to hear more buzz about as we go into Christmas Day. It cranks up across the south, and unfortunately, my worry more than anything right now could be some significant severe weather with this system across Dixie Alley, the deep south. That would be some pretty nasty severe storms across Alabama, Mississippi, the Florida Panhandle, Louisiana, maybe even Georgia. For the Carolinas, it's kind of interesting. We're wedged in a little bit, but not enough that I could see any winter weather because you see these isobars buckling down as well as the thicknesses. This is likely going to be stable air here. Could be a little ice in the mountains, but I'm not sold on this being cold enough for an ice storm right now because of the position of the parent high. But this thing cranks up, and we're going to see some significant rain from this the day after Christmas, maybe even going into the following weekend, because this thing kind of sits here for a while. And eventually by Thursday night into Friday, the 27th to 28th, we see it kind of open up and move off to the east a little bit, and the cold air cranks in here. So that's on the European model. If you look at the GFS, it's pretty similar, believe it or not. There's the storm for Thursday and Friday, almost identical to the European model. That system's in and out. And again, that's this Thursday storm. And then the weekend is dry. But going into Christmas week, we start to see this system develop by Christmas Eve. It's a little bit slower on the GFS, and it looks a lot warmer. You could see how much warm air gets pulled up, and that's right there. That is the day after Christmas, the 26th. That's a significant severe weather outbreak the day after Christmas. So there's about a 24-hour difference in the timing between the two models. And I just, you look at the Carolinas, I'm not buying into this ice storm potential. There's just not enough cold air there, because the parent high to get an ice storm here has to be over eastern Ontario or New England. Ideally, upstate New York is perfect. Well, unfortunately, the high is up over Hudson Bay, so this cold air is having to wrap all the way around like this, and the strength of this warm air advection, or what we call WA, is more than capable of overwhelming this kind of weak wedge going on. So I'm not buying into this right now. Of course, things can change. It's definitely a close enough call. I want to keep an eye on it, but I'm not buying it right now. And then that system moves out pretty quickly. And then you want to look long range. Things get really active again around New Year's here in the southeast. This is a very active pattern. If anything, we're going to start to see some rain and some storminess around here. Let's look at some of the temperatures. This is the European temperatures at the surface, 2 meters. We'll go through the next couple of days. You can see clearly after the Thursday front comes in here, which is really late Thursday, you can see the bottom kind of drops out. So by Friday, these are your highs on Friday, mid-40s. I think it's 45 in Charlotte for Friday. Then going into Saturday, highs on Saturday, likely only going to be in the upper 40s to low 50s. Things moderate a little bit on Sunday into Monday. Still pretty cold, but then you can see the wedge trying to form as we go into Christmas Day. We've got some cold air trapped here on the 26th, but it's going to be kind of iffy if the storm's going to be here in time. So the day after Christmas will be interesting to watch. If we're going to get an ice storm, it's going to be that day. And when you look at the European model, the coldest air seems to be banked up right there against the mountains. So if we're going to see an ice storm on Wednesday, it's going to probably be the foothills into the mountains, because you can see across the Charlotte area, most of the Piedmont temperatures are pretty marginal. It's still going to be a chilly rain, and here's the thing, we're still wedged in. It just doesn't look strong enough to produce significant icing, because the warm air is probably going to win out. And then we go further down the road, you can see the warm air wins out, and then that system kind of overwhelms the whole system, the whole area. So this is what we call the deterministic meteogram from the European model. And looking at that time frame, here's the front right here on Thursday. Notice a little bit of rain, but here's our system after Christmas. Here's the time. Here's Christmas Day is right here. Pretty cold air. And if you notice, most of the guidance, at least for the Charlotte area, keeps the 2-meter temperatures just above the freezing mark, which is that red line. So this is likely going to be rain in the Charlotte area, but we'll have to keep an eye on the Interstate 40 corridor back into the North Carolina mountains, because I think that's the area with the highest potential right now, if things should come together. The problem looking this far out for ice, sleet, snow parameters, there's just too many parameters that could go wrong, and I don't have forecast soundings that far into the future. So you really got to know how the atmosphere is set up. So until we get closer, I don't think this is going to be a big deal. I think it's going to be a big rainstorm for us. But if I lived in the mountains or the foothills, I definitely would pay a little closer attention to this for the day after Christmas, because just looking at those European temperatures right there, that's definitely close enough that we could see some wintry weather. So that's just kind of looking way ahead. It's just a discussion. This is nothing's written in stone right now. This is just kind of some of the things I'm looking at. More importantly, this week, it's going to be about this storm developing here in the Midwest and the Northern Plains into the Great Lakes. That's going to be a big storm for travelers, especially leaving Thursday and Friday going to the Northeast. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, I'll have complete details and updated forecasts starting today at 4, 5, and 6 on NBC Charlotte. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter, wxbrad, on Facebook, look up Brad Panovich, or on Google+, on Brad.